Yeah.
A rough day for the Big 12, a fantastic day for the Sun Belt. We knew week 2 of college football was going to be better than week 1. We just didn't know it was going to be this shocking. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you our week 2 college football recap. And we certainly have a lot to cover. Upsets left and right across the nation. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the action here, guys. We finished week 2 with an 11-4 record straight up, and I'm sure you can figure out where the majority of those losses came from. We'll touch on them very soon. We finished 5-4 against the spread, our first winning week of this season. Only 2 weeks in, but right at 500 going into week 3. So those of you that are signed up for our expert picks, again, we thank you so much for that. Those of you that are soon to sign up for our expert picks, you do not want to miss out because we really had a fantastic week in week 2. We had a fantastic start in week 2. And I can promise you that week 3 is going to be even better. So 11-4 straight up, 5-4 against the spread. Football is getting kicked into high gear, guys, and our picks are going along with it. So let's kick off the action on Thursday night. Before we get to the wild stuff that happened within the Big 12, we got to start with the U down in Miami, taking on UAB. Now, don't start saying that the U is back. Don't start saying that the U is back. Yes, UAB was a solid team. Yes, Miami did defeat them by 17 points, 31-14. And yes, they did put up 337 rushing yards on UAB. But let's see how Miami does in their next 3 games when they face off against Louisville, Florida State, and Clemson. Again, UAB, a solid defense, hung in that game. They were in that game well into the third quarter. Miami ultimately was too much. Derek King and his debut with Miami was ultimately too much as he completed his 16th straight game with both a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. So Miami kicked off the action on Thursday night. Saturday is when it got exciting. Saturday is when it got wild. And we'll start over in Ames, Iowa. So Cyclone Mitch, Cole Converse, and all my Iowa State fans out there. Cyclone Steve, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Although I do know it hurts. Because Louisiana clinched their first ever road win against a top 25 opponent by defeating the 23rd ranked Cyclones 31-14, the exact same record that Miami defeated UAB by. And when you look at this game, guys, Iowa State was a double-digit favorite going into this game. Iowa State, I'm going to admit it, I had Iowa State as my Big 12 champion. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. The offense was pitiful. The defense was pitiful. The special teams even worse, as the Raging Cajuns had 2 special teams touchdowns, a 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and an 83-yard punt return for a touchdown, along with a 71-yard touchdown pass as well. So Iowa State was unable to stop those big plays. And when you allow, as one person said, 14 free points to the Raging Cajuns, along with a deep bomb like that, you're not going to be able to win. So a horrible start for Matt Campbell and the Cyclones, guys. Again, it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to lose by 17 points to Louisiana. Again, we knew Louisiana was good. We said not to underestimate them. They were 11-3 team last year and are projected winners of the Sun Belt this year. So certainly not a team you could overlook. But it's also shocking when you look at this that Louisiana only had 272 total yards and yet was still able to take down the Cyclones the way they did. So that's our first ranked team going down in 2020, guys. Our first big upset of 2020. And right after that, I'm talking minutes after Louisiana took down Iowa State, Arkansas State out of the Sun Belt, took down Kansas State, an 8-5 team last year. They took them down in Manhattan. And this game certainly a lot better than the Iowa State-Louisiana game. This game in Manhattan was one that we were lucky enough to be in attendance for. Lucky enough we were able to cover this game, and I'm so glad we did. The Red Wolves defeating the Wildcats 35-31 in a game that was back and forth and already could be called one of the better games of this 2020 season. It looked ugly for the Red Wolves at first. Their first drive resulted in a 3-and-out. The punt was blocked, and just a few plays later, Kansas State converted, making the score 7-0. The Red Wolves battled back though, but found themselves down 21-7 midway through the second quarter. And like we mentioned in our post-game analysis, most teams, when you're big-time road underdogs, not expected to win, you're obviously outmatched in theory. When you get down double digits, you kind of just tend to roll over. You're going to keep playing the game, but the odds of you being able to come back like that are very, very slim. Arkansas State defied those odds. They were down 21-14 going into halftime, ended up taking a 28-21 lead late in the game, guys. So when they were down 21-7, they rattled off 21 straight points. 21 straight points to take a 28-21 lead. Then Kansas State responded with 10 unanswered points to take a 31-28 lead before Arkansas State hit a game-winning touchdown to Jonathan Adams. Lane Hatcher to Jonathan Adams, who had 3 touchdowns on the day, with 38 seconds remaining. Arkansas State marched down the field, 2-minute drill, down 3. We're not going for the tie. We're going for the win. 17-yard strike to Adams in the end zone, 38 seconds remaining, and the Red Wolves escaped with their first win against a Power 5 opponent since 2008. 2008, the last time Arkansas State defeated a Power 5 opponent, and now Kansas State is left to ask what went wrong. Why could a defense that was supposed to be the strength of this team, why could the defense not stop Jonathan Adams? Why couldn't they not stop the dual quarterback situation with Logan Bonner and Lane Hatcher? And what is Chris Kleiman going to do now that he is 0-1 and here in a few weeks has to face up against Oklahoma, who looked pretty dang good with new quarterback Spencer Rattler? So a rough day for 2 very solid Big 12 teams. That's not even mentioning what happened late at night in Lawrence, so in the same state. Coastal Carolina going on the road to take on the Mad Hatter and the Jayhawks. And Coastal Carolina jumped out to a 28-0 lead. 28-0 lead. Chanticleer is playing extremely well. We ended up winning 38-23 over the Jayhawks. And everybody seems so surprised by this. And I would say I might be surprised by the margin of victory, but I'm not necessarily surprised that Coastal Carolina pulled off this win. And I'm not too sure why many people are. We knew Kansas was going to struggle. Anybody that thought Kansas was going to make a bowl game this year really didn't know enough of what they were talking about. They lose their quarterback in Carter Stanley. Yes, they have Puka Williams. Yes, they have a solid wide receiver core. None of that matters if you don't have a quarterback to get him the ball. And we knew Kansas didn't have that. We knew Kansas did not have a great defense either. You pick all that together, plus a horrible off-season where no one was really able to practice and prepare for this season, Kansas was going to struggle. Of course, I didn't have them losing to Coastal Carolina. I thought the Jayhawks would get revenge after their 5-point loss they suffered to them last year. But still, to say that you were just stunned that Coastal Carolina went on the road and pulled off this win, something that they were able to do last year, kind of blows my mind. But still, the Sun Belt, 3-0 against Big 12 teams on Saturday. And that doesn't even mention what happened down in Lubbock as Texas Tech barely survived FCS Houston Baptist 35-33. The Red Raiders having to stop Houston Baptist's 2-point conversion with a little over 3 minutes left to preserve the win. So what was supposed to be one of the Big 12's better offenses, guys, led by Alan Bowman, struggled against Houston Baptist out of the FCS, only winning by 2. And I just got to say, outside of really Oklahoma, the Big 12 is looking very, very rough, guys. I know Texas played well against UTEP. I know we've yet to see Baylor in action. I know we've yet to see TCU in action. But the Big 12 as a whole, guys, I thought was relatively wide open going into this year. And I do not believe that to be the case anymore. So a shocking day from one of the Power 5 conferences that chose to play college football this season. Maybe the Big 12 was wishing that they hadn't have played college football in 2020. But we wrap up that wildness and that madness over the course of Saturday afternoon. We're going to go back early morning here to talk about Syracuse and North Carolina. The Orange taking on the 18th ranked Tar Heels, guys, in a big game, more so for North Carolina than it was for Syracuse. We knew North Carolina coming into this game, a nationally ranked team, a team that has very high expectations going into 2020 with so much returning talent on both sides of the ball, a great quarterback in Sam Howell, and then Mack Brown as your head coach. So I was very surprised, as I'm sure many were, to see that North Carolina only led the Orange 10-6 going into the fourth quarter. What was supposed to be an electric offense was getting put in their place by Syracuse's 3-3-5 defense. But then Javonte Williams said, let me take over. And Javonte Williams scored 3 rushing touchdowns, guys. 1 from 1 yard out, 2 from 6 yards out. 3 rushing touchdowns. in a span of 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So 10-6 in the fourth quarter. Final score, 31-6 in favor of North Carolina. The defense bucked up, and the running game picked up the slack as well. A fantastic job by Mac Brown and the Tar Heels, not only to go out there and make the score look a lot better than maybe it really was, but also to go out there and get the cover as well. So North Carolina, certainly a team to keep your eye on in ACC play. Week 1, opening games for many of these teams. We've seen, even last week in week 1, you've seen all these teams start to struggle. They come out slow. North Carolina was one of them. These Big 12 schools may be one of them. In theory, they will improve in the following weeks because this has been such a wild offseason, such an unorthodox offseason where these guys don't have the opportunity to hit each other. These guys don't have the opportunity to practice as much as they would normally. So you're going to see a lot of this happening, especially in the upcoming weeks when you see more ACC teams play, when you see the SEC get back into action. It's going to happen, guys. But I think as the weeks go on, you're going to see these teams really start to improve, and we're going to see them play the way we expected them to way back in the offseason. Something to keep in mind. Following the North Carolina game, Notre Dame. ND, I had it down as ND. Notre Dame gets their first ACC win in program history. Might only be the only year that Notre Dame plays in the ACC, but they can still mark it down as a conference victory. The Fighting Irish taking down Duke and Chase Bryce, 27-13 in South Bend. Now this game was a little bit closer than many expected, 17-13, guys, entering the fourth quarter. Ian Book didn't play too bad, but to me, it was Kyron Williams that stole the show, guys, the running back for the Fighting Irish, putting up 112 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground while adding 93 reception yards on just 2 catches. 93 yards on 2 receptions, so over 200, guys, over 200 total yards for Kyron Williams and the Fighting Irish. The next big star for Notre Dame, they're 1-0 in conference play for the first time in history, and like we predict, very well could make the ACC championship game. I know it's early, but the Fighting Irish in that fourth quarter looked pretty solid, especially on their defense. And then finally, guys, we've talked so much about the Big 12. We talked a little bit about the ACC. We have one final ACC game we have to talk about, and that is Georgia Tech at Florida State. New coach, same problems for the Seminoles. Mike Norvell made his debut in Tallahassee. Expectations were high. I was excited. Florida State was excited. And Georgia Tech, a team that was coming off a 3-9 season and what we knew was going to probably struggle offensively, came into this game as double-digit underdogs against the Seminoles. Georgia Tech won 16-13. Yes, we missed that analysis. Yes, we missed that pick, as I'm sure many did. Because when you look at Florida State, they had so many missed opportunities to win this game. They couldn't have asked for a better start to the Norvell era. The first drive on defense, Georgia Tech's first drive, Florida State gets an interception. They follow up their first offensive possession ever under Norvell with a touchdown. So interception and a touchdown. They later get a field goal. It's 10-0. Florida State jumped out to a quick 10-0 lead despite the very long rain delay. It's 10-0 at halftime. They had they had 2 interceptions deep in their own territory. They had 2 blocked field goals. So the defense was raging against these Yellow Jackets, guys. At one point, I thought there's no way Georgia Tech's going to be able to put this thing in the end zone because as soon as they get in the red zone, they're going to turn the ball over or they're not going to be able to convert on special teams. I thought Florida State has got this in the bag. But then Florida State did what Florida State does best, and they choked. In the second half, guys, they were outscored 16-3 by the Yellow Jackets. Keep in mind, a Yellow Jackets team that averaged just 16.7 points per game and was starting a brand new quarterback here, guys, a freshman quarterback in Jeff Sims. In the second half, Florida State had back-to-back fumbles on back-to-back drives. Georgia Tech hit a late field goal, and the Seminoles fell to 0-1. 0-1 in conference play, and to me, an embarrassing start for Mike Norvell in Tallahassee. We said back in our preview, guys, that the Florida State struggles were not necessarily due to the players, it was due to coaching. Willie Taggart, major reason for Florida State's abysmal performances over the past few years, and he's the reason that Florida State's at the level they are right now. I know Mike Norvell is only playing his first game, only coached his first game. You have to give him a little bit of time. But losing your home opener to a Georgia Tech team that, to me, I did think was outmanned, was outmatched, was, smaller to me and not as physical as Florida State. Losing a game like that does not get you on the good side of a fan base that you are still trying to win over. So things looking very concerning for Florida State in year one under Mike Norvell. Poor start. Biggest thing they have to work on, learn how to catch the ball. Everybody, go out there and just catch. The receivers were dropping the ball left and right. The defenders were dropping the ball left and right. Learn how to do that and learn how to tackle, and maybe the Seminoles might be able to win a game or two in 2020. And then finally, the number one team in the country, Clemson, took care of business as expected, winning by 24 against Wake Forest. They led by 34 going into the fourth quarter. They allowed 10 points to the Demon Deacons in the fourth to make that score look a little bit closer. But Trevor Lawrence, the Heisman favorite going into this season, put up 351 yards and 3 total touchdowns. Clemson really the only team to me so far that looked like they haven't missed a beat in their first game of the season. They look like they have not missed a beat following that national championship loss to LSU. And I don't care what you say, the Tigers are the team to beat in the country this year. The Tigers are the favorite to win the Natty, and they are certainly the team to beat for anyone that wants to try to contend for a national title. So there you have it, guys. A wild week 2. One that we expected. We knew it was going to be better than week 1. What we didn't expect were so many upsets. Georgia Tech over Florida State, and all 3 of those Sun Belt schools taking care of business against Big 12 programs. But again, that's why you play the game, and that's why we say any given Saturday, because any given Saturday you can lose, and any given Saturday your team can be the one that pulls off a monumental and historic upset. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. We have tons of Week 3 content coming your way very soon. We have AP Top 25 analysis coming your way. We've got Week 3 predictions. We've got Game of the Week analysis. We've got our newsletter. We've got our expert picks. We've got our Patreon. So make sure to not miss out on any of that. Don't miss out on anything down the description below as well. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.